y'all have talked about this really fascinating origin story with Cusp, where y'all were traveling through Texas and stopping to refill your gas tank. And then that's when these girls came up and kind of blasted through the gas station. And as you've said before, you just knew you had to go over and talk to them. They really compelled you in that way. And then you kind of just continued to chat with them throughout the night. What I'm interested in knowing is, so how much time passed between that night and then when you came back and you wanted to create a documentary and cameras basically started rolling?
Like a week.
Well, yeah, less than most.
Really? That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We got home and because that night we took a lot of photographs and we recorded audio. And at the end of the night, we got their like Instagrams and they DM'd us, and so like we could stay in touch. And when we got back to New York, we like digested the photos and listened to the audio, and because we were just like asking them questions like, what's it like to be you or whatever. And we were like, I don't know what it's like to feel it, but we feel it, so let's just do it. And so we messaged them and we were like, hey, like, I know this is weird, but like, what if we came back and like made a short documentary about you? And they were like, sure. So we booked flights and we were there, I think, yeah, like less than a week later, and started talking to parents and getting releases and everything like that.
What was the day-to-day to the shoot like? Because with how broad a mosaic this movie covers, I imagine it was very go with the flow. But did you also kind of start off the day with any checklist? Would they hit you up and let you know, hey, we're going here, you might want to tag along? Were you guys more proactive in that part?
Early on, I think we would wake up, and they live on teenage hours, so they were going at 3 or 4 in the morning and waking up at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. So we would wake up and we would send out some texts, like early on, we would send out some texts, see who was up, see who was around, go hang out with whoever was available. And then as we kind of focused in on our girls, we would wake up and text them and just follow them wherever they were going that day. So,
and yeah, I mean, whatever they were doing, we were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, y'all were tagging along, and it seemed like I imagine you don't get some of these moments and scenes that you get in this documentary without y'all developing a real strong bond. So,
oh, absolutely,
definitely.
We see coming of age stories all the time in fiction, but this is nonfiction, it's reality, and the subject is just enormously broad. Like y'all aren't trying to capture a specific, a very, very specific narrative with these girls or something they're going through. Like you're trying, it seems to me, to capture the universal experience, through Autumn and Alani and Brittany. With that in mind, was that broad canvas, was that liberating or was that a challenge? Because I would personally, it seems like it'd be kind of intimidating, but.
Well, it's funny because we didn't set out to do that. And I feel like the way that the story kind of came together, it just evolved organically, and it evolved because we just kept being interested, and we would notice things and then kind of start to ask ourselves, like, what's the cause of that? Why do they act a certain way? And so like, the more that we looked, I feel like along the way, we kind of came across certain categories. And then like, the more that we would look into that, or look into like, there are elements of sexual assault and rape culture. And then, there's elements of sexism, and there's elements of just childhood trauma. And like, the more that we started looking into certain things or asking them about it, the more that we realized that like so much of this is connected. And so it wasn't like we set out to do a huge topic. It was like an inquiry almost of like, like this actually is related to that. And it's like, we were learning the whole time.
So do you make those discoveries during the shoots, or how much of that kind of happens in the edit when you're piecing the movie together?
I mean, there was definitely a lot of learning during the shoots. And then I think the edit had its own, I mean, yeah, we learned so much in the edit. I mean, it's a verite film, and so much of, we understood like what we wanted to say, but it took so long to figure out like, how are you going to say all of that? And I mean, and to an extent, the film still doesn't even, show as much as we would love, like, and talk about you can't make a movie about everything.
A feature is actually a really short amount of time, and that was one of our biggest surprises.
Yeah. I can only imagine how many hours of footage y'all gathered while shooting the day-to-day of life with these girls. I mean, their interactions with each other, their interactions with their families, their interactions just when they're by themselves. How do you know when you have enough? I mean, was it as simple as y'all were on a timeline and you just try to spend as much time as possible with them, or just how do you know when you have enough?
A little bit. I mean, the scope of the story is definitely the summer. So at some point they went back to school, and then, we would still come for some weekends on the beginning and end of the summer. But on the whole, we knew we wanted to structure it in this way, and it sort of just felt natural that when the summer ended, we, stopped filming.
And towards the end of that summer, we started to look at, like, knowing that that's kind of what we wanted the scope to be, we would keep in mind, like, where are we going to leave everybody? And, tried to, looking back at it, in the moment, I'm not exactly sure how it happened, but looking back, it's like, we did think about, is everyone's story going to be wrapped up by the end of summer? And are there things we could do to, it's a verite film. So it's like, you can't, even if you have ideas, it's not, you can't force anything to happen. So it's like, we just kind of started to, like, keep things in mind about how we would want to show them or stuff like that.
It's one thing to be in the audience, detached just in a certain sense, watching these girls' lives unfold, but I imagine there had to have been points where it was really hard to hold yourself back from stepping in and maybe helping them out. And, there are a couple of moments where you see them start to do something that they might regret later on. But, part of being a teenager is kind of learning from your wrongdoing and learning from the wrongdoing of others that have an impact on you. So how do you hold yourself back at certain points?
I mean, it's definitely a challenge in some, like, vulnerable moments with the girls. You want to, put down the camera and just give them a hug. But, that in that moment, like, the thing you're there to do and the best thing to do for them is to tell their story as, like, compassionately and fully as you can. And so a lot of times that means, you wait a couple minutes until then you stop recording and then you run over and give them a hug. But in those moments, it's, important to keep doing your job.
Yeah.
One of the things that I just find just super interesting about these girls is that they seem like they could say anything with the camera rolling and they just really wouldn't care. And I just find that really, really fascinating with them. Were there ever any conversations, whether it was started by you or by any of them, about how they would like to be perceived?
I mean, I think it was, that's a good question. I mean, I think it's something that we were it would come up and disappear and come up again. And it was sort of just like an ongoing conversation with them in terms of how we were filming them and what, what that was going to look like. But especially with teenage girls, I mean, they're very interested in
how they look,
perceived.
But we shot a photo book along with the film. And so pretty much all throughout the when we were shooting, like, they would see all the photos, and, like, we would, look at those scenes together and, text them funny clips when we're looking through the footage, and, when there was, like, a blooper or something like that. And so it was kind of like an ongoing conversation. It wasn't like a one-time thing.
So I do have to obviously kind of reckon a little bit with the fact that I'm a guy and this is a story about 3 teenage girls, but I was still really drawn to the experiences and also kind of struck in a way by how candid some of their conversations were about stuff like consent and sexual assault and kind of the lingering effects of that. How obviously do you have, while you're shooting and editing and putting this film together now that's been released, do you have a certain audience in mind of who the movie might be for? And kind of along that vein, do you think there's something that teenage guys might get out of it? And have you thought about that at all? How does that factor in?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, something that has always been, on our minds throughout the whole process of making it is that we definitely did not want the story to demonize anyone or victimize anyone. And to the more that we started to really study these topics and inquire and learn about them, is understand how complicated it is. There's no single cause and single effect. Everyone is participating in the same culture, and that, we all perpetuate the same habits or ideas about gender roles or something like that. And so it's been one of those that, like, we always want to make sure that the film, that boys and men could benefit from it, that girls and young women could absolutely, feel like identify with the characters and connect to some of their experiences. But hopefully we leave audiences in a place where, even though obviously most of the experiences are specific to girls, they're also talking about, like, trauma and how to handle it, how to handle your emotions, that it's okay to have emotions, and there's an element of, like, in some ways the film is actually about masculinity, even though the subjects are girls. And it's about, I mean, the way that a lot of, everyone is taught to be strong, and you can't be vulnerable. And, when it's okay to start to show people how you're feeling and don't hold it in, And so hopefully it's something that a lot of people can identify with and reckon with how we treat each other, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, kind of go along with that. There is that scene where you're focusing on a phone chat with, I think it's Brittany's mom, where she's talking to a friend about kind of her own experiences. You know, we don't get the full breadth of what her history is, but you know, kind of touching along with that, there is a sense of some of this is a bit cyclical maybe, and some of this comes back around, and then that, I think, part of that kind of fuels one of the girls saying, you know, when I turn 18, of course, as with any teen, I'm getting the heck out of here.
Yeah.
I'm curious about if you've screened the movie to any teenage girls kind of before its release, apart from the subjects. So I'm really, one of the things that I've been curious about is how they might receive it, because obviously it's this is a really broad universal experience with through a bit of a microscopic lens with these 3 girls. So I could see some of them who watch this movie being like, well, I'm just seeing my experiences reflected on screen, and either being enriched by that, or maybe being like, yeah, that's on par. Have you screened it personally to any teenage girls, whether it's relatives or anyone else?
I've shown it to a couple friends, like close friends, younger siblings who are 17, 18, 19. And it's been really cool. I mean, you know, I think it'd be fun to do like a larger screening for like a group of other teenage girls, but on the whole, their reactions so far have definitely been like, oh wow, I've never seen anything like this. You know, I've never seen these scenes. I've never seen this kind of thing play out. I've never seen a girl plucking another girl's eyebrows, you know, and that's like me and my friends on the weekends. So as you guys kind of implied earlier, the story kind of ends when they're with the start of a new school year. They're heading off to school, and so in a sense, it's kind of like partly kind of a new beginning, but also just a continuation of their own experiences. But along with that, also kind of an open-endedness. And to me personally, I was like, I just want to kind of spend more time with them and see how they reckon and confront these challenges that are incoming. Have you stayed in contact with them since that time? And do you think there is any future where they might be interested in doing like a follow-up?
I mean, we're definitely still in contact with them. Sundance actually had a satellite screening yesterday in Dallas.
Oh, okay.
Here, and we went, and we're good friends with them at this point. They're definitely interested in a chapter
and a follow-up.
It's not out of the realm of possibility. That's all.
Yeah. Did your own experiences at teams ever influence the direction at all, or whether it was something you were shooting, whether it was like, oh, this might happen at this particular event or on this day, or do you try to stray away from that?
I mean, I think, you can, if you were about
No, I was just gonna be like, definitely.
I mean, there's no way you can't, right?
Right.
Like, there's no way, even though we're from different places and we're teenagers in different, decades for sure. Like, there are elements that are so many things are relatable, and so many things are amazing, that like you wish other people still saw that, like Autumn has like a Lisa Frank notebook. You want other people to know Lisa Frank is still a thing, and Delancey's younger sister and asks her older sister what to wear, and there's so much that I'm a younger sister, sorry, that you cannot like think about your own experience.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, that's all the questions I had. Parker, Isabel, I really appreciate y'all taking the time. Again, congratulations on the premiere of Cusp. I really love this documentary, and I hope that a wide audience gets to see it.
Great, thanks so much, David.
Thank you so much.